Welcome back to EDN113, Living and Learning with Technology. This week we're going to look at the assignment task 1A and B for preparation as the due dates are fastly approaching. Let's stand still at assignment task 1 part A first, the evidence sheet, which is due on the 26th of March before 9 a.m. in the morning. Now, looking at the evidence sheet, I'm quickly going to run through it so that you know which activities are supposed to go on to your evidence sheet. First of all, make sure your name and student number is on your sheet before you upload it to the LMS. And then let's stand still at the different activities. Activity 1, meaningful learning. You had to write a 200-word discussion on meaningful learning in your first week. That is a screen capture of that discussion will go into your first activity block. Second activity was you had to look for 3 resources that you had to evaluate using the CRAP test. You had to write a 50-word evaluation on each of them. Those 3 50-word evaluations need to go into the second activity block. Third, and the activity 3A, we're looking at inquiry approach. You had to look at different WebQuest sites and pick one of them and then evaluate that WebQuest site, stating what you find useful, what you might adapt or adopt to use in your own WebQuest, and that is what needs to go onto the activity 3A. Bear in mind that you do need to upload the URL for that WebQuest that you evaluated as well. Activity 3B, the digital story. We all created a digital story. We had to then upload it to YouTube, to the YouTube URL that was created when you did this is what is going to go into your evidence block for activity 3B. Main thing to remember here is to make sure that your YouTube clip is publicly viewable so that if I click on it, I can actually see your video. Now, lastly is this week's activity on safe, responsible, and ethical use of the internet. You had to create a 3 storyboard or 3-panel comic strip. And a screenshot of that comic strip is what is going to go into your evidence sheet here. Now, some students have asked me whether they should upload only the evidence sheet or whether they should upload the marking key and the evidence sheet. For my students, I told them that I'm happy for them to just upload the evidence sheet for this assignment. But do make sure from your own tutors whether they would prefer you to do both or only the evidence sheet. Let's move on to task 1 part B. Now, for this task, the group will need to work together. It is due on the 3rd of April, also before 9 o'clock in the morning. And I'm going to quickly go through it with you to explain to you what is expected of you as a group to do. Now, firstly, let's look at page 1. Page 1, you have to type in your team name, your wiki URL, all the student numbers and full names and mobile numbers and email addresses of all the students or members of your group. And then when you go to page 2, it is basically your rules of engagement for the group. You need to discuss the following and decide what is the methods of communication that you're going to use and what is the code of conduct that you're all going to adhere to while performing this group wiki. Moving on to page 3. Now, page 3 has got quite a few things that you need to look at. Firstly, we need to look at, we need to decide what year level we are going to base our group wiki or our web quest on. And in order to help you decide, we've given you the curriculum that you need to look at. So in your group, decide which, look at the different curriculum links, decide which year level you're going to cater for, and then once you've done that, select a topic for your website or for your task, but make sure that your topic relates to the real world, but that it's also aligned with the curriculum for that year level. And then the last thing on page 3 will be deciding on the technologies that you're going to use to produce your end product. Now, each student will have to produce an end product using a different technology. All the end products will be digital stories, but you could use Photo Story 3, iMovie, Movie Maker, Comic Strip Creators, Pantone. Any one of the technologies that we've covered over the past 4 weeks is to your disposal for using to create your end product. Bear in mind that if you are going to use different end products, therefore you will have, when it comes to the evaluation and the process and the description of the task, you will have to make sure that all the different technologies are sufficiently covered for the task that you set. For part 3, you'll put your names in, you'll write down which technologies you're going to use, and then how does these technologies support meaningful learning. Briefly, write down how you think they match up with the characteristics of meaningful learning. Now, the last page of our group project plan is where you will decide what is your responsibilities going to be on the website. Now, each person or member will develop a certain part of the website, and you'll also be expected to develop your own individual page at the end. Right, I'll come to that and I'll describe that more when we get to the task 1 part C in the next video. For this video, we're just going to stick to the framework, and we're just going to look at what your responsibility is. So coordinator 1 will be responsible for the introduction and the task. Coordinator 2, the process and the evaluation. The process. Coordinator 3, the evaluation. Coordinator 4, the conclusion and the credits. And coordinator 5 will be responsible for the About Us page, as well as for the wiki presentation overall. Now, having said that, this does not mean that the coordinator 1 will set the task alone. You as a group will have to sit down and decide what is going to be the task for the students. Because this is a group project, every member needs to have input in what's the task going to be, what's the process going to be like, what the resources do you think the students will need. When you make the rubrics, you will have to collaborate and find out what is all the criteria that you're going to look for in your end products. Conclusion, when you summarize what the students have learned, again, it will be collaborative. You have to together decide what is the main things that the students will need to learn. And then the credits as well. If you are populating a page, you will need to let the coordinator know resources you used, what pictures you used, and all the credits will then be linked to the credit page. So overall, you'll have to share information with one another. No one is an island when it comes to this project. Everybody will need to work closely together. So that is basically what the group project plan is all about. You'll have to sit down and discuss this and collaborate with one another and make sure that you have this all sorted out, before the 3rd of April, because that is the due date for this part of the assignment. Now, you might be in a group that's less than 5 members, and if you are, then you'll have to divide some of the coordinator responsibilities between the rest of the group. Thank you. I hope it clarifies some of the things that you might have difficulty with, and please do watch the next video where I will be discussing the part C of the assignment.